keys to navigating an ever-changing technology landscape? Well, what do the numbers say? How has advancement of cloud-based services revolutionized the way organizations operate today? With an array of new technologies enabling seamless access to information and fostering connections, the future of technological developments look more promising today than ever before, which is why we're so excited to have our special guest today. Now, if you know anything about industry analysis, if you know anything about looking at the numbers, looking at the data to help predict what the future might look like, then you know this individual that's on our podcast today. This is not his first time joining us, not his second time, not his third time, but the fourth time joining us today. And today we have Jay McBain, the Chief Analyst of Global Channel at Canalys. Now, this is the world-leading organizational firm that is distinctly focused on channels, partnerships, alliances, and ecosystems. Jay, welcome back from your vacation. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you. And on Saturday Night Live, when people join the 5-time club, they get a robe and they've got the cigar and everything else. So next time, if we could get all that set up, that would be fantastic.
You got it, Jay. I'll tell you, when we look at the program and what we've been able to build over the years, you are definitely someone we look forward to having on. You are in high demand, so we're honored. We will have to do something special for your fifth. Now, whether you're speaking at a conference, sharing research, industry insight through articles, blogs, interviews, you are someone that we look to understand what's going on in our sector. I want to say this, Jay, it's only natural to talk about the buzz around AI, to talk about the transforming landscape for the MSP community. What are you excited about? What are some of the specific AI technologies that you've seen already having an impact in this space in 2024?
Yeah, I talk kind of two ways. We'll talk about numbers, but then we'll talk about trends and stories because they're both pretty exciting. If we start with the numbers, the world economy, and we're all kind of, facing challenges from our end customers, and it's not a exactly easy place to be out selling today. The world economy at 105 trillion is going to grow at 2.9% this year. So that's the world GDP. The tech industry, where we all are, the tech and telco industry, makes up about 5% of that. So businesses and governments will spend just shy of 5 trillion this year on hardware, software, and services. And that industry is growing at 6.2%. So we're growing double the size of the world economy. So we've chosen the fastest growing, best industry to be in. But then we talk to partners and say, where are you spending your time? What are your focuses to finish off 2024, get into 2025? Well, I have security. Cybersecurity is a strong opportunity, and that's growing at 12%. Managed services are growing at 12%. Both of those growing twice as fast as the tech industry. So you're doubling the world economy, you're doubling the tech industry, you're building a double-digit growth business. So if you can actually combine security with managed services, managed security is growing at 50. Now you're growing triple what the industry is. So now you start having the conversation about Gen AI. You talk about this upcoming super cycle at the edge. So if we talk about, for example, just devices, you've got a bunch of things happening. People are pretty excited to get their PC. They're pretty excited to get their phone. They're pretty excited to get everything at the edge to be AI enabled. We're starting to hear now about how much of AI is going to happen at the edge and not rely on the internet and this latency between the two things. So at the edge, we're going into this super cycle for the next 6 to 8 quarters of double-digit growth. So if I'm growing security at 12, managed services at 12, I'm growing even the devices at 12. Well, let's talk about infrastructure. 85% of the world's data today sits on premises. So the magic of AI, which last year was a consumer trend. It writes poetry, it records music. You can carve off a 1,000-word blog in 2 seconds. I mean, it's pretty cool. But the promise of AI is combining the business data that sits at the edge with these language models. Can you imagine the chatbot with your bank, with your airline, with your insurance company, your pharmaceutical company, everybody you deal with on a daily basis? When their models, their chatbots get informed via your entire history, everybody else's history, this becomes a different world. And you start thinking of the infrastructure, the compute, the storage, the networking to make all that happen at the edge. because we're not going to forklift all this into public clouds. All the work's going to be done at the edge. This is where partners do their services work today. Today, they make $2 for every dollar of hardware or software that gets sold. In the future, that's growing faster to be $3. And so just servers, we found out a couple of days ago, grew 105% year over year. We've been buying servers for 40 years. The industry just doubled in size in 12 months. So if you talk about the world getting ready for AI, the world getting ready to compute and take this storage and build this future of intelligence, it's not happening next year, next quarter. It's literally happening right now. And partners are excited. Right now, they're seeing 59% compounded growth just in AI. So what a wonderful industry to be in. What an industry, what a great way to serve your clients. What a great way for all of us to build very meaningful, material, strong businesses for us and our employees.
This is Danny. And what I'm hearing, it doesn't matter if you're an MSP, a consumer, or an original equipment manufacturer, this is a great time because things are only going to get better. Things are only going to grow faster. And you have a choice, either get on or miss out. And so I think this is the best time ever for any type of technology vendor out there. Best time for cybersecurity vendors who are leveraging AI into what they sell today. It's the best time for organizations who are looking at having their own servers in-house, who are looking at the technology. I mean, think about the days when we had the X series platform, right? Think about the day we had this big mainframe, and then we were able to bring down to single one-use servers, and we put it into an Oracle rack configuration, and we take advantage of all that. And then think about the fact that we had servers in the data center that weren't doing any work, and then we start virtualizing those servers. So every single year, as things get further and further along, we just get better and better and better. And even our organization, though we're a coaching and training organization, we focus on public speaking skills, soft-based skills, and executive coaching skills. We even give all of our clients a free chat bot as well. We call it the Ask Jenny bot, where all of our 250 courses, all of our material from how to do a commission plan for my team members, how to go to market, revenue optimization, all those questions are addressed right there with the Ask Jenny bot. So we just put all of our information, all of our courses, so that people can ask it 24 hours a day. So yes, even people who are not MSPs anymore, we used to be an MSP, we transition out, we are trying to take advantage of AI. So I love the fact that you backed everything up with numbers. And sometimes people say, hey, that's too good to be true, but then you're able to back everything up with a number, with a stat, with a figure. And so I'm going to tell our audience today, what are you doing today to take advantage so that you're not being left behind? So please do that. Jay, you go to these conferences, you go to these roadshows, you hear a lot from the equipment manufacturers, the original equipment manufacturers. You hear a lot from cybersecurity vendors. But when you hear MSPs, are they shocked that they haven't really taken advantage and jumped on this train yet? Or do they feel like, well, I'm just too small, I can't make a difference? Because in my opinion, we all can make a big difference. We can all take advantage. But are you shocked maybe that MSPs are not jumping on this as fast as they should be?
I'm not shocked because human psychology would say some people are early adopters, some people are early majority or late majority. Some people are laggards. We have 335,000 companies around the world now that have at least one managed contract. So where you draw the line and who you call an MSP is more difficult than ever. But I do know that MSPs have grown their businesses collectively to be $548 billion now. So over $1 trillion is being spent on managed contracts. The good news is 1 out of every $10 that businesses and governments now spend in tech on hardware, software, and services goes into a managed contract. So if you say to somebody you're not moving fast enough, your opportunities out there, they're going to remind you that this is only 20 years that all this growth has happened, and it's a global phenomenon. We've convinced the world, much like the subscription consumption economy has taken off with Netflix and Spotify. Most of us are okay now at $1 a month for a toothbrush for the rest of our lives. They've convinced you back that, we have customers now that are really delighted to spend $113 per product or per person to have everything covered. And if we have an issue that comes up that, we might have had recently that took down 8.5 million devices, I'd rather be one of those customers that has it all covered, that have signed a contract, that know who's on first, and I can get that fixed. And that's not going to cost me $1 more. So these are this is the world we're in. We're now at 82% of people are pretty comfortable with outsourcing parts of their IT, and security has been a big part of that. So I'll say that, if you're not jumping on AI fast enough, I'm not going to, complain about that. There's very successful people that says, let the early adopters do what they do. And when this becomes a multi-million dollar opportunity for me to go build a practice, certify my people, go and really dig into that business value like you found of, training these models with all your content and great stuff. If I'm ready for that conversation at that time, I'm ready to hit it at early majority stage. And nothing's wrong with that. That either. But the opportunity's there. And in Gen AI, for example, there's $158 billion of opportunity by 2028 that MSPs can go get their fair share of, to go help businesses of every type, every one of their clients, to go and leverage this and really make business level changes for the good.
Jay, this is David, and I'll tell you, it can seem overwhelming. You're talking about over 150 billion just with one segment of the market. And we talk about the impact of augmented reality. We talk about AI generated content. Some of the leading influencers in this space are saying something strange, to me at least. We
Yeah.
see the movies, Bruce Willis, and they're like, is he in reality? Is he not in reality? And they're saying that it's getting to a point where we may not be able to tell the difference unless you get someone to slap you on the side of your head and say, hey, you're awake, you're in real life. And it's changing the way we look at business. Any real life example or real world examples you might want to talk about that maybe you've seen the MSP jump on this, the TSP jump on this, and you're starting to see a shift in even the way they do their own company business?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an interesting market because you can read the newspaper every day or watch the news. There are very senior people writing open letters to governments, thinking that we're basically lighting up Skynet here. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator 2, it's all happening. This is it. This is that moment in time. Where the flip side is, the New York Times writes a big thing yesterday where this is the printing press.
Wow.
The changes that happened in society, the changes that happened with humans when the printing press came around. This is another, and they made a case for why, this is going to be a case for good. It's not for me as an analyst. I don't know if it's for any of us to kind of decide what's right and wrong, but when in this market, and if you go back in the channel 43 years to August the 12th, 1981, kind of that first formed channel around that first IBM PC that brought together, partners. One thing has always been constant. Where there's mystery, there's margin. And the people that have grown the fastest, the people that have become most successful, understand that with every turn of the crank, when the internet came in the mid 90s, when PC started to get connected in the later 80s, when e-commerce really took off in the 2000s, all these changes created a lot of mystery. And while there's open letters going to governments and people debating science fiction, there's margin in mystery. And I would say that in my 30 years, I don't think I've ever seen anything more mysterious than AI. The deep fakes, how we go forward as a society, how the economic situation frames the political situation as 45% of the world's population this year goes to elections, how everything plays out has an ability to change. And this becomes a chapter, in the book of evolution of our species, perhaps, or not. But the fact is, it's so mysterious that I'd be wanting to ask questions about the 158 billion. I'd want to ask what industries that's in, what countries that's in, what region, what buyer types are buying that. I'd want to know what segments are leaning in the most. I'd want to know what layers of technology surround that, because guess what? I'm not NVIDIA. And I don't have a $3.5 trillion valuation today, but where can I go and find my spot in the world? Go look at all the business models. There's 20 of them surrounding AI. I'd be wanting to ask a lot of questions right now to go find my first $1 million in this opportunity and go help my clients finish off this year and start next year by delighting their clients.
Absolutely. This is Danny. And the one key takeaway, and I 100% agree with you on that, and this is something that I want to honestly understand: where there is mystery, there is margin. That is amazing. I mean, every time there's a technological evolution and the early adopters, if they were able to take advantage of it right away, make a lot of money up front because
Mhm.
they're going through the headaches, they're going through the adoption, and they're going through what I call creating a SaaS tech stack or some type of go-to-market strategy that people can take advantage right away. There is a lot of margin in it. And we even look at recently the whole up and down thing with Tesla, right? They're giving away promos here, doing promos there, but the person who's running that company is still his income keeps going up and up and up and up and up. So it's the early adopter taking advantage of it, and the fact that there was a lot of mystery. Hey, how long can I drive on a battery, or how long can I take XYZ, or how long can this happen? And the people who actually created, who were first to market, they're reaping the rewards of having that big extra margin. And of course, the tax incentives by the
Mm.
government. But other than that, there is margin indeed behind that mystery, and I'm so excited that you said that. Now, I want to shift a little bit to an organization that you have a lot of familiarity with, a lot of experience with, and the fact that your organization interviews thousands and thousands of corporations every single day, every single week, and you put together studies, you put together analysis. One of these organizations that you interviewed, but that you had them put into a competition is called Lenovo. They won an award that you guys provide at Canalys called the Global Sustainability Ecosystems Leadership Award, right? This Leadership Matrix Award. What is that? Can you explain this a little bit more? And then how did they actually win this award that is actually so prestigious?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I go back to, for example, the Davos event this year, kind of the richest, smartest people in the world taking private jets, burning a bunch of fossil fuel to go talk to each other. But every year they kind of talk about the world's biggest problems. And on stage, with half the world going to elections and the future, what that could happen, a second biggest thing that's happening is climate change. Just this Monday, we had the hottest day ever on record. And we set records almost on every metric, almost in every month. But it's becoming obviously a global world issue at a level that never has been. So companies like Lenovo take it very, very seriously. And we publish the 12 R's. It's not just recycling, it's not just using reusable, it's not just packaging well, it's not, there's so many layers to it. But people want to feel that they're not causing harm. And when I buy a product, I want to have this feeling that somebody's measuring right down to the raw materials. There's 900 raw materials that go into one Lenovo laptop, ThinkPad. And so, I don't have the time as a consumer to go track every cobalt mine, every lithium mine, every place in the world to make sure it's ethical, make sure that it's being shipped properly, making sure that it's being distributed properly. But I want to make sure that I'm buying from a company that does care, that's going every day to look at those 900, potential exposures and either pushing those folks to do better or buying from an alternative that might even be more expensive that does care right down to the raw materials coming out of the earth level. And so when we look at sustainability, we look at it at that level. Who's put out a press release and was talking good game on stage and maybe has a program to support it, but who's actually doing the work and going to make sure that we're making this planet a better place, and somebody who's thinking through not just my ownership of the device, but when I send it back in 3 years and the new owner gets it, and 3 years later, the new owner, but maybe at year 12, it's gone through its useful life anywhere. And somebody's breaking it down and putting it back in. So who's kind of thinking of the entire life cycle of what we do? And I want to just make sure that I'm feeling good, that I'm connected. That's what that award is. And we hold up Lenovo very high in terms of a company that doesn't just put it on paper, doesn't just put something on their website to check a box on an RFP, but does care. And that's what we want to make sure that we go and audit each of those 900 steps before we give an award like that.
Jay, this is David, and it really makes me think about what we should consider going forward. You can get all excited about the glam, the bells, the feeds, the speeds, but then to really look at it and say, are they doing their due diligence to make sure we are considering the impact on the environment, that we are considering the impact on other societies, cultures, countries, et cetera. And so I'm happy to hear that you're looking into the numbers, but you're going beyond the numbers. And that's what really matters now. You talk about Lenovo and the relationship there, the history. I want to point something out that I read about the CEO and what he put out at the 2023 Tech World event. And he introduced something called the Pocket the Cloud strategy, announcing $1 billion investment to AI innovation. And it really talks about the transition Lenovo's making, not just from being a primarily hardware focused vendor, but also now to a holistic approach to providing solutions to their clients and thinking about services, addressing how AI needs to be transformed in the customer's mindset. What else are you seeing from companies like Lenovo to make this transition, to make this shift, to say we need to go beyond just providing hardware? We need to think about how we're transitioning in the minds of our consumers, something that they need to understand as they integrate it within their own business.
Yeah, so I mean, Lenovo, especially, at a CEO level, sells more product than anybody else. So by selling more desktops and laptops and devices at the edge, they're taking a leadership position in terms of how these products work, how AI is going to be run at the edge, how they're going to be managed. Obviously, what the opportunity for partners, to go in and add a lot of value at the edge. So it's complicated being the leader. And, sometimes you come out with these billion-dollar investments and stuff because you want to do it right. You're not there just trying to manufacture more products than the next person over. You're making the world a better place in terms of our sustainability conversation. But in terms of AI, we don't know yet. Remember back to the mystery? We don't exactly know. Even though we might have heard from one company about co-pilots, we might have heard about another company sitting on your shoulder all day and kind of watching what you're doing. You hear from another company that, we're all going to be retired and our digital twins are going to take over. I know you guys are real twins, but the digital twins are going to take over. And it takes a leader in the industry on how that's actually implemented. And, it takes investment. And I know this leader of Lenovo from the time I worked there. The word channel in Chinese language is attributed to Yang Qingyang.
Wow.
And before the concept of channel was even there, and it was in the early days of Legend at the time, creating 4,000 dealerships around mainland China and selling HP scanners at the time in a completely different way. So there's a lot of credibility here that goes back deep into the early 1980s on how this was formed and the concept of how this is going to play out with a brand new opportunity like AI goes back to the roots of a very mature, very successful company on taking a leadership position in the world. So I take comfort in that as an analyst, that we've got obviously powerful, smart people driving dollars and investments in the right place. We've talked about all the positives here, but there are the hallucinations, there are the risks, there are those open letters to governments we're talking about. And us as an industry and the leaders in this industry, have to step up and self-govern in a way, because they'll be out in front of governments probably by 10 years in terms of bringing this safely to market, securely to market, and making sure that we're thinking of our clients, we're thinking of our customers, all the way down.
This is Danny, and I really love the fact that we have to think about the future as well. And Dave will talk a little bit more about your recent trip later on and how it relates to your family and why you guys travel together. But I want to talk a little bit about the fact that we look at the future, we look at where things are going on. And one of the things I need to understand when I look at the future is I just go to your website and I look at all the latest reports. And one of the reports you guys have is you said that there's going to be a 41% no impact on customers' refresh plans of May 2024. And this is an increase from an estimated 33. And you talked about this earlier, how things keep getting more and more, increasing 12% and things like that. But there's just cautionary emphasis, an important reality where the use cases for AI PCs, right? It remains murky. We see Microsoft now rolling out Microsoft Copilot. We see a lot of organizations like Lenovo trying to integrate this into the system. But what I want to ask is, how important is it now more than ever before that organizations focus on the channel, focus on education, focus on building out better incentives, better programs, because they're going to be the talking piece, the mouthpiece that's going to actually get the clients to adopt. How much more important is to evolve and really integrate your channel programs today than ever before?
Yeah, this is probably the biggest topic that's changed, in the course of 40 years, where, 75% of that world trade number I gave earlier goes through indirect sales. You bought your last car from a dealer, you bought your last TV from a retailer, you bought your last jar of peanut butter from a grocer. If you look in the tech industry, the 5 trillion, 73.2% of that this year is going to go through channels. So you start to think, okay, 75% of, whatever market you're in, no matter what you do, is going to kind of go through channels. That makes it really important. But what makes it different? Well, one of the things making it different is by the end of this year, the majority buyer of that 5 trillion will be born after 1982. A millennial has a different psychology, different behavior, different journey that they're on when they acquire. Things like sustainability are so much more important to maybe this buyer than somebody else. They're digital first, they're digital only, they love subscriptions. All these things are changing with this buyer. So you start to think, well, what does this mean for partnerships? Are they going to buy through digital marketplaces? Is that going to change the indirect number? It doesn't matter, because they love partnerships. Today, according to McKinsey, they have 7 partners that they surround themselves with before they get to an outcome. So they don't see partnering as a single throat to choke or a trusted advisor. They see partnering as a team sport. And just like a good team, you don't have 7 quarterbacks on the field, or you don't have 7, center icemen in hockey. You have a team, and everybody's good at their job, and everybody does their job to win the championship. So in a group of, 7, and surrounding that buyer through the first 28 moments before they make a decision, and surrounding them for every 30 days when they're asked to renew, the future of selling anything in any industry, in any place in this world, is going to be through partnerships. It couldn't be any more important to the new buyer. It couldn't be any more important to the platform economy, which is creating the new valuations on the Fortune 500 top down. It couldn't be any more different than the economics of partnering and how money's going to change hands to, incent and to drive the group of 7 around every buyer. And it's changing everywhere. So this is all the trends and the trains that are on the tracks picking up speed right now. And I can't find a company in any industry, in any place in the world, that isn't dialing in right now, asking what this means for them. You just add Gen AI on top of that. It's just the icing on the cake. The end of the cookie is more icing on the cake. Like, there's all these other changes that are coming back to the partnership conversation. And no company will be successful in the future without being part of this team.
This is David J. And whether you're sitting on the bench, you're riding as the 6th man of the year, the fact that you can be in the game and make the impact and make the difference is what matters. You're going to get the ring if we all win. And I love the way that you said that, is that the strategy, the approach is going to be continuing to work the channel, continue to work the specialists that are in that space. You just got back from Africa. What is going on with the family? Where are you guys traveling to next? What are you going to be speaking at next? I mean, of course, we're going to always run into the McBain family, but what's next for where you're going? Because I know for those that follow you, those that are good friends of yours, that's just a part of who Jay McBain is. It's not just learning and understanding the world of tech, but it's really getting to fall in love with the world that we're in.
Yeah. So, we made a decision early on that we were going to take our kids around the world. And I wrote a blog a long time ago, probably 15 years ago, that I put a number of 100, just because it was a round number, and there's 193 countries in the world. Some are really tough to get to, and there's always a state of safety involved and stuff like that. But it was kind of just a marker and kind of the secret. I projected that, how do we go and touch that? So our kids, we ended up taking them to Antarctica, which is their 6th continent. One continent was hanging out there, which was Africa. And we said, we're not just going to fly to South Africa and check the box. So we went and did a 3-week, 7-country, really immersive safari to see gorillas, to see the Serengeti, to see the lemurs in Madagascar. That was my 100th country. So I fixed that bucket list. I got it, 15 years later and checked the box. But for the girls or our young kids, that was their seventh continent. And when they get asked at school to write a report or when they get asked about, other cultures, we want them to remember walking down that street, eating that food, meeting those people, understanding those stories. And, while they may forget a lot about the travel itself, they'll never forget, meeting the pygmies up in the mountains in Uganda. They'll never forget going into the villages in Tanzania. They'll never forget, dining with lemurs deep in the forest in Madagascar. So these are just the things like the wanderlust, hopefully we create. They will go back and they'll continue on that journey, for life. And makes me a smarter analyst, makes my wife a smarter channel chief when she's talking to a partner, from that region, when she can talk in first person, examples.
Jay, this is David. I want to ask something real quick because we talked about the exposure you're giving to your daughters, and I think that's beautiful. I love that they're going to be able to grow up and be able to have that experience, be able to know that looking at different parts of the world, understanding different cultures can shape your view, and you have a different view that most people will never have because all they can do is see what's in front of them. Talk about the dynamics that you and your wife have. I mean, obviously, she's been now the channel chief for Sonic Wall for a little over a year or so now, and you guys are traveling together. You're trying to align your conferences together. I know you can't do all of them together, but how's that relationship working now? How do you guys integrate the schedule and making sure you're on the same page? I mean, talk about the beauty and the dynamic that you guys have doing that together.
Yeah. So every year I happen to be the analyst that publishes the 270 places that we ought to be. And, 270 conferences means that you could be in 3 different places at once. Every day of the week, I could tell you 3 different places in the world that you could be at a good channel conference. So the question now comes back to her planning to advance her company goals, my planning to make sure that these trends and the messaging gets out at the biggest stages in the world. And then how do you be home for your kids and be there or take them and make all this work? So surprisingly, yesterday I ordered another physical calendar from Amazon. There's a paper calendar that we mark up with a pen, if you can believe it. And then she corrects me because she just ordered on Amazon this kitchen device that isn't made by any manufacturer that any of us would know, but it's supposed to be an integration first thing that it just absorbs everything. And it's supposed to be a planner digitally using a bit of AI that takes in all these things. Should we be there together? Should we be there apart? She just missed a flight yesterday based on some of the global travel issues. So she missed an event. I got to head off on Saturday to Vegas for a board that I sit on and then a speech next Wednesday in Seattle. So it is one of those push pin map, old school logistics conversations. Sometimes they get heated. It doesn't look as beautiful as always it does on Facebook, but you end up and you make it work. And that's why going to Africa, or we spent, 10 days chasing Taylor Swift to Paris. These things become more important to us to balance the challenges we have with our professional lives, to make sure we have that quality time to spend 24/7 as a family.
This is Danny, and Dave and I are both grateful to have both of you on our platform multiple times and to be able to see how the work that you do is inspirational. Michelle is a moving force. Everyone knows her in the industry. What she does, it just rocks. And so we're grateful to have power movers. We're grateful to be able to have the fact that you travel around the world, that you're able to, first of all, bring your kids with you. I know that having my own MSP and my own VAR back in the day, now having my own organization training people who have MSPs and VARs, I do take my kids with me sometimes as well. And it's a fun thing. They love it because when I'm at an event or I'm speaking, they're like, "Okay, Dad, we're going to the hotel pool," or we have an au pair that we took with us. So I was in LA and San Diego for a 5-day event, to 2 different events, and our pair just took them to Disneyland, took them to Legoland, took them.
Yep.
They were so excited about it. They said, "This is the best vacation ever." Like, "Hey, I got to at least take a half a day with you guys while I'm here." So I think it's fantastic. Jay, we appreciate you joining us today on our podcast. We appreciate your relationship that you have with your vendors, the relationship you have with Lenovo, to be able to understand the organization inside out, to understand the CEO's direction, to be able to apply the 12 R's and make sure that every organization is evaluated, looked at. Are they taking advantage of the future? Looking at the data points, how this data points can actually help your organization, and why it's a good time to be where you're at today. And if you're an MSP out there, you should be taking advantage. You should feel hopeful for the future that what you're doing makes a difference in your clients' lives and makes a difference in your clients' businesses. So make sure that you take advantage. If you haven't heard Jay speak, go to any conference. More than likely, he'll be there. And if he's not there, go to canalys.com/insights to learn about what the potential future could look like. And if you want to learn more about what country he's going to be at next, go to jaymcbain.com and learn a little bit more about where they're going to be at. And I love this idea of having a calendar, a little AI mix into it to be able to balance out the travel, balance out the events. Jay, once again, Dave and I are grateful to have you, to have a friendship with you, to have you on our show once again. And we will make it special for the fifth time around. We appreciate you.